Don't miss the inaugural All-American Cup Team Tennis Tournament, presented by Thomas J. Henry, at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas, November 11th through 13th. The All-American Cup features 10 top men's U.S. players competing on 2 teams, East versus West, each captained by the greatest tennis doubles team of all time, Mike and Bob Bryan. You don't want to miss this. Brother versus brother, East versus West, best versus best. Tickets on sale now at allamericantenniscup.com.
We have been going through breaking down each region of the state. Houston is a huge one. We don't have to tell you that. You are all very well aware of that. So instead of we showed you earlier, and if you are just joining us, you can go back and watch it at any point in time, what teams are left playing in the 2022 Texas High School Football Playoffs. There's 15 Houston area teams. We've talked about that. We don't need to sit here and go through if the stonks are up or down for North Shore or any of those, Katie.
Right.
Y'all know that. You know they're
Break
good teams.
down David Hicks Jr.
Yeah,
we know he's good.
Yeah, exactly. There's too much statewide attention around these guys for us to kind of rehash that. So instead, we had the idea, and what we're going to do is a snake draft of building our Houston area dream team. So there are 6 different categories. We're going to pick a coach, a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, an offensive line, and then a defense. The defense is the entire unit. So it will be a snake draft. Mallory has our ceremonial Texas Football Today coaster that you're really going to have to put some emphasis into, like, flipping it because it's very light. But,
do you want me to do it right now?
Yeah.
All right, so we've got Texas Football Today on one side, WTF on the other side, so.
There you go.
All right.
Which one are you calling?
I will go. I'll go WTF.
Okay, if it lands on WTF, Mal gets first choice.
All right. I'm going to try and not, like,
we're going
on the ground.
Break a light or something. All right, here it goes. Here it goes.
It's TFT.
Let's go!
Dang it.
I get first
TFT
choice.
always wins. It's okay.
This is the one time that I'm, like, hyping up TFT on the show, and it's only because that means I get the first pick. So like I said, 6 different categories. What we will do is I'll choose coach, and then she'll choose her coach, and then she gets first choice at quarterback, so on. We'll go through normal snake draft, building our dream H10 hold it down
H10.
teams. So with the first pick of the inaugural WTF Houston Dream Team Draft, Ashley Pickle selects head coach Gary Joseph. I'm going with the head coach of the Katy Tigers. Hall of Famer head coach at his 19th year at the helm for Katy. 253-23. That's his record at Katy. Seems good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I looked some stuff up. Obviously, we know he has 5 of the 9 Katy state championships, but he has never lost at the helm at Katy for all 18 years, now in his 19th season. He has never lost more than 3 games in a season. Not once.
That's absurd.
And to say, like,
golly,
3 losses in a season. Okay. Seems like a decent amount. You're thinking, okay, yeah, but they're a great program. 18 years of that. He's only lost 3 games in a season twice. It was in 08 and 16. Unbelievable. He had one of the best defenses of all time in 2015. We hear about that all the time. He really is. He's if you want to call, everyone calls, Reggie Samples the Godfather up here in DFW. I think you've got to look at Gary Joseph as the Godfather down there in the Houston area region. And guess what? They have another really good shot to do it again this year. So an unbelievable coach. And that's who I'm going to take as my first round pick.
I like it, but it's not as good as my pick.
Oh, coming in with the heat.
My pick. Or I guess we'll start it off with the second pick. And the WTF Houston.
I don't know what the music is.
Houston Fantasy Football Draft.
Chung chung.
Chung chung. Mallory Hartley selects Galena Park North Shore head coach John Kay. How can you choose any other coach, I guess, besides Gary Joseph?
Fair. Those are the 2 I had on my sheet. Those were the 2 I had selected on my sheet.
How can you choose anybody but the man himself? And Now, I didn't know this until looking up stuff about him, but he was actually the defensive coordinator at North Shore before taking the helm in 2014. 115-17 as a head coach. Now, I always talk about how I'm not good at math. But the math do be mathing on this one.
It do be mathing.
That's pretty good if you ask me. 72-3 in the past 5 seasons.
Insane.
3 losses in 5 years. And let's add in 3 state championships in those 5 years. Absolutely insane. He's just a coaching genius, a defensive genius. What I've really admired about him, too, just in the past couple of years, is last year he goes out there and beats a veteran Duncanville team with a freshman quarterback in Caleb Bailey.
Insane.
Absolutely insane. And he's done the same thing with this year. Caleb Bailey went down earlier in the season because of an injury, and he's performed exceedingly.
Yep. Touchdown, Dave.
Right. And so it's hard to pick anybody other than John Kay. Of course, Gary Joseph is
right.
a good coach.
No, yeah, it's new school versus old school.
It is. It
you
really
know,
is.
he's the next.
Gary Joseph has been there longer,
right?
But when you put those two on the scale, I mean, it's hard to pick one or the other. I mean, they are clearly the 2 best guys at the helm in Houston.
Yeah, I had looked it up, and North Shore is a program that has been around since 1963. They had 1 championship before. It was in 2003. Since then, in the 8 years that he's been there, he's in his 9th season now, but since then, he's brought 4 championships in 8 full seasons.
Good
He
Lord.
has as many non-championship seasons as he does championship seasons. Absurd.
That's wild.
And two, I mean, he runs one of the most disciplined ball clubs I've ever seen, because that's the whole thing when they played Duncanville last year.
Game last year, yeah.
That's how they did it.
Right.
They had a freshman quarterback, but it didn't matter because he's so disciplined from day one that there's never a falter. It's truly admirable. Those were the 2 correct answers. It was who went first was going to get one of them.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, it really is. That's the new coming and then the old school. It's who do you want now?
Exactly.
If you're talking about, John, like the future of your dream team, you've got the right pick, because Gary Joseph can't be doing that for this much longer.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just a matter of what you're looking for.
Yep.
All right, I get this next pick here.
We're snaking.
We're gonna go with quarterback. Let's go with the 3rd pick and the WTF fantasy football draft. Whatever, Houston football draft. I will take DJ Lagway, Willis quarterback. Easily one of the best quarterbacks in the Houston area. He's got a cannon on him. 2,081 passing yards and 24 touchdowns on this season, and he can also use his feet and legs when he needs to. 517 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns on the ground, and only 5 interceptions in the season. But what really stands out to me, and it's funny, we actually talked about him on This Week in Recruiting last week with Powers, and I got to see his film firsthand, and his size.
Oh, yeah.
He's huge.
Yeah, 6'3", 225.
6'3", 225. He's fast. He's agile. And he's just impossible to bring down. I mean, this guy is the epitome of a dual threat badass quarterback. I mean, he's just insane. He went I forgot. I was going to say, Willis did go. They went 5-5 this season, so not a ideal season probably for him, but definitely clearly that star on this team.
Yeah, the thing that I love watching Lagway is his footwork for being that big is exceptional. Like the steps when they hike the ball and the steps that he takes to drift back in the pocket, because he's got, long legs. He's well built. He's got long legs. That's what kept sticking out to me as we were watching that film you saw it last Wednesday. I saw it the other day. But the plant, like when he steps back, the strides he takes are so quick.
Yeah.
And so elongated that it gives him the extra space he needs, and it allows his offensive line. Now, obviously, he can't go too far out back, but they're the perfect 2-link steps to get enough space really quickly to give his offensive line a little more leniency when it comes to blocking. Fantastic pick. All right, with the 4th pick of the WTF H-Town Dream Team draft.
I gotta stop saying fantasy football. It feels
Same
like
thing.
it is.
Realistically, yeah,
it really is. Yeah.
Lagway was one I had written down. I'm gonna go ahead and go Caleb Bailey.
Yep, that was my other one.
So, You took the coach. I'm taking the quarterback. I understand that Caleb Bailey hasn't played much this year. He's only a sophomore. There's plenty of Caleb Bailey left for us to see, and I think that I would be willing to put my stock in, hey, we're going to put him on IR real fast and get him healthy and get good. He's exceptional. Even last year, it wasn't necessarily what he did. His numbers were good. I mean, 1,711 yards, 19 touchdowns. So his numbers were great, but it was what he did in the playoffs that really blew him up. I don't think I really have to tell anybody that. I mean, the state championship game was unbelievable. It was spectacular. You know, he hits touchdown Dave in the end zone to really kind of seal the deal there, and that's when everyone was like, that throw, when that ball was about halfway to Armador in the end zone, I was like, oh my God. Like, I think that's when everybody like went, we got to watch this kid. Yeah. But I think if you watched him leading up to the state championship, you started to really see flashes, because I watched their playoff game against Atascocita last year down in Humble, and I was there, and I text in the Slack chat, I sent in the Slack chat, I was like, guys, this North Shore quarterback's legit.
He's legit. Yeah.
I was like, they're playing with a freshman, and I'm telling you, he's legit. And then he went on his stage to do that. So I felt good about that one. It was easy to recognize early on, but I think this kid is the future of Houston football. I think he's the next Connor Wigman down there. You know, I honestly think he might be better than Connor Wigman, but I think he's that next household name of he's going to go D1. He's going to be a starting quarterback somewhere.
Right. He's already displaying such a large amount of poise, too, as such a young
He can't even drive yet.
He can't even drive yet. He's 6'1", 195 as a sophomore. I'd be willing to bet he's got potential to put on the kind of weight that DJ Lackway does. I mean, can you imagine what kind of a threat he's going to be back there in the backfield if he's got that kind of size to him?
Yep.
Incredible kid. Really, really talented. I completely agree with that pick, too.
Yep. All right. So there we go. For coaches, I've taken Gary Joseph and quarterback Caleb Bailey. Mal's taken John Kay and DJ Lagway. Moving on to running backs now. So the 5th pick of the WTF H-Town Dream Team Draft. Chung chung. For running back, I'm gonna go a little bit. This is gonna sound dumb when I'm saying I'm going a little bit off the beaten path. I think there's more highly rated recruits when it comes to the noise that they will make in college. I'm sticking with my faint of heart Texas high school football heart here, and if there's a running back I want on my Texas high school football team, it's Seth Davis from Katy.
Yep, that's a good one.
How can you... I know that there are prospects that are rated higher than him, and I understand that, and I think that there are running backs that have more NFL potential maybe than he does, but if we're sticking just to Texas high school football here and what one player can mean to a Texas high school football team, it's Seth Davis, because I remember watching him back his sophomore year when I was down to watch his older brother play, and he truly is something special. Now, a lot of that has to do with an outstanding offensive line from Katy and, you know, the way that they run the ball, but we have forever talked about what a perennial powerhouse is, how much of a perennial powerhouse Katy is when it comes to running backs. We always say, oh, guess what? Katy has another good running back. Shocker. Seth Davis is up there in the conversation, in my mind, with some of the best running backs that we've seen. He's a little bit smaller than his brother was, but he's elusive. You just can't bring him down. He's got great explosive speed to go ahead and get out of there. And after that, I mean, it's off to the races. There's no one that can bring him down. And I think that if you are talking about Katy and you're talking about running backs and can say that one of them is going to be in the conversations of one of the best that they've had, you have to want that kid on your team. So Seth Davis is going to be my choice for running back.
I think he's just a classic, old school, old style running back. Like you said, he's probably not the biggest one of the bunch, but man, he's got a lot of heart to play with. And when you're going to stick him with that Katy offense, he's going to excel.
Yeah, he's been doing this since he was a sophomore. I watched him drop that 70 burger against Buda Hayes at McLean Stadium in the state semifinal, and it was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, jeez. All right, with the 6th pick of the WTF Houston Dream Team Draft.
Chung chung.
Chung chung, thank you. I will select Kendrick Riscano of New Caney. I I have been watching this kid all year for a very obvious reason.
Yes.
He was committed to Michigan State
Uh-huh.
all year. So I've been watching this kid very, very closely. He recently decommitted. He's got offers from Ole Miss, Oklahoma State. Might as well look at your offers. He's an incredible kid. But definitely one of those top tier running backs in the Houston area. He is what you think of is when you think of a classic, tough, hard-nosed running back. And what I really liked about him is that I think New Caney, I think historically they're a pretty good team. But adding Kedrick to this team, I think that it brought them up into the next level.
Yeah.
Now, they're not in the playoffs anymore. They eventually did lose. They went 11-1 on the season, lost by 1 point to Tomball, I think I guess it was area round last year or last week. So, but man,
Which was a big toss-up game. I mean, honestly,
toss-up game. It could have gone either way. Tomball's a good team too. But I specifically remember watching his highlights from when New Caney played the Woodlands. Now, if you would have told me last year that New Caney was going to play the Woodlands, I would have been like, the Woodlands by 100. They ended up beating the Woodlands. It was 14-7, and guess who had those 2 touchdowns?
Yep. Yeah, boy.
Our guy over here. So just an incredible 6 foot, 190 pound, just fantastic size for a running back. Quick and agile, super athletic. He put up 1,765 yards and scored 30 touchdowns this season. He's just your classic go-to running back. Seriously, a fantastic guy, and it's clear to see why I want him a part of my team.
Oh, yeah. No, and I think that, too, is definitely one of those. Like, I know our buddies on 247 are big on him. I know that he's Greg Powers likes him a lot. Number 74 in our top 100, number 7 in the running backs in the class of 2023. He will be able to be utilized for one of these teams. Do I think he is a Ruben Owen showstopper? No, but I think that he'll definitely be able to go on and be a 1-2 punch that eventually in his college career can, transform into that starting role. But he'll be a great running back for one of these D1 programs that, needs to give a guy a break and see what he can go out there and do. Good pick. Really good pick.
Let's continue on. I will take the next pick at wide receiver with pick number 7 of the WTF. Just makes me laugh every single time. It's just a mouthful. Houston Dream Team Draft.
Chung.
I will select Jaquez Petaway.
God darn it! You stole my pick.
At Langham Creek. Pretty obvious why he is my pick. Dude is he's just electric. I mean, he's so good. He can high point the ball with a high vertical. And his athleticism is just uncanny. He can pretty much outrun any defensive back that he comes in contact with. And what's really impressive about him and what our friends at 247 do like is that I've seen he can reach his top speed in a really quick fashion. I mean, he can hit top speed within a couple of seconds, which is crazy to me. Now the Lobos, they did miss the playoffs. They went 5-5 this year, I believe. I was trying to find it. Yeah, they went 5-5 this season, but Petaway, 4-year starter, just an incredibly talented all-around wide receiver. He's committed to play at Oklahoma next season, but just a heck of a dude. I mean, and that's the right answer. Right, he's wide receiver number 1 in the Houston area. Like I don't think anybody that. Yes. Right. Good job. Yeah. There's nothing else. But with if you did have another
8th pick, who is honestly not that far behind, if you want to ask me.
No.
With the 8th pick of the WTF H-Town Dream Team Draft.
Chung, sorry. I was taking a deep breath because, guys, it's really hot in here. Like, I swear. I was, over here like this, trying to cool off. It's so hot in here. Holy crap.
I literally look over expecting her to do it, and she has her sleeves rolled up, and she's going,
It's so hot in here.
It is really hot, and I don't ever say that, literally ever. All right, with the 8th pick, I'm going to take who I think is the clear-cut number 2 wide receiver, specifically in the class of 2023, Ryan Niblett from Aldine Eisenhower. He's our number 5 ranked receiver in the class of 2023 in Dave Campbell's Texas football. And it's funny because we just talked about an OU commit. Well, now we're talking about a Texas commit. Niblett is currently committed to the University of Texas. So what a showdown, what a Red River showdown that could be in the future, getting to see these two Houston guys, square up for the opposite team. A 4-star. What I love about Ryan Niblett is the fact that, one, if you talk to any of our recruiting buddies, he is a track star, and that goes so far. We've talked about it when it comes to recruiting a lot, but all of the big-time recruiting guys, the first thing that they look up is what you're running in track, because those numbers don't lie. No. Sometimes it's hard, especially, being honest, when you're playing in kind of that Aldine district, the competition is not near as tough as what someone from maybe a North Shore is facing off against, or someone from, heck, like you think of, I know this is a different classification, but 10-5A Division I, where Fort Bend, Richmond Foster was left out of the playoffs after a 7-3 season. Like, there are districts where it's hard to really gauge how good someone is, just because the competition is way tougher, or in the Aldine district, the competition not being that tough, it's a little bit easier for a superstar to show out, blah, blah, blah. Track times don't lie. And this kid is unbelievable. He's crazy fast, but I really, really like the fact he's one of those guys that just seems like effortlessly he's able to make things happen. Like, he could be in a bad situation. It could be overthrown. It could be underthrown. It can do any of that stuff, but he's able to, as long as he's able to make the catch, he's going to figure out how to get past the defender. And that's an intangible thing, an intangible aspect of a game that's really, really hard to teach. You can teach footwork. You can teach the best way to haul in a ball, that kind of stuff. You can teach the best route running. But after the catch, to be able to just naturally have the ability to make plays happen, you can teach that. But there's a lot of intangible there that I really, really like from him.
Right, it comes down to instincts too, when you think about it, and you can talk about you can kind of point that towards a lot of these athletes that we talk about, but a lot of the top ones that we're mentioning do kind of have just that natural instinct for the football, and I would describe Niblett as that kid.
Yes. Before we're WTF Women Talking Football, usually here every Thursday at 2. This time we're doing it Tuesday because of Thanksgiving. But we did have like an actual really good question here that if you're new, you might not know the answer to. So there was a commenter that said, are we just going to talk about 6A the whole time? If you're not familiar with this show, what we've done each week is we go through a different region of the state. I will tell you, I know that there's a lot more teams than just 6A teams in the Houston area. We talked a lot about the teams that are in 5A and honestly, anywhere past 4A is none of the Houston teams are still in the playoffs. So this specific episode is kind of a big school snob episode. So if you want to hear us break down small school ball, go ahead and go back to some of the older episodes where we talk about, a lot of the West Texas regions or East Texas or really anywhere else other than DFW and Houston. We hit a lot of small school ball. We hit a lot of 6-man ball too, a lot.
I was going to say there are I would say a couple of episodes where we based around 6-man football because that's the powerhouse in that region is 6-man football.
Right.
So we go all the way up to 6A, all the way down to 1A. So we cover it all.
So yeah, if you're just joining us, thank you so much, and a totally understanding question when people are like, "Are y'all only going to talk about 6A?"
Right.
We're talking about Houston, so part of
There's
most
only
of it's gonna.
1A team
and to be
Houston.
fair, out of there. In our region, we have 160 teams that we put in the Houston. 94 of them are 6A teams. So, I'm talking vast majority of it. Like 3/4 of the region are 6A teams. So, I thought that was a really good question that needed to be addressed.
For sure.
Moving on now to the 9th pick. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
9th pick. We're going offensive line. So with the 9th pick of the WTF H-Town Dream Team Draft, chung chung.
Chung chung.
I'm going to take and this might be a little bit of a surprise too. I'm going to take the Spring Westfield offensive line. And it's funny because you heard Trevor Bullard talk about their defensive line earlier, and their defensive line legitimately is one of the best in the state. It has been now for a couple of years. But I feel like the Westfield offensive line does not get enough credit. They're the highest scoring offense in Texas high school football right now. They've scored 660 points this year. That's an average of 55 points per game.
That's
now,
wild.
they have superstar quarterback PJ Hatter. I think he's on the short list of exceptional quarterbacks in the Houston area. So they have that. But guess what? Without an offensive line, PJ Hatter doesn't get to do what he gets to do. They have Raekwon Bell, who's 6'4", 295. Ryan Anderson, who at only a sophomore is 6'3", 290. Isaac Rodriguez, who is 6'2", 305. I mean, beefy guys.
That's a big unit.
305, 290, and 295. One of those is just a sophomore. The kid's like 15 years old. I just think that we talk so much about what this Spring Westfield offense has been able to do with PJ Hatter, and it's those guys up front that really deserve the credit there. I think that Spring Westfield has an outstanding offensive line.
I agree with you, and I love that pick too. And we talked about this before the show. I mean, this was one of the hardest positions to pick in this draft because you cannot look at stats alone. You can't pull up let me go look at Spring Westfield's offensive line pancakes on the year, because that's just not available.
It
to
doesn't
us.
exist.
You can do that in college and the NFL, but you just can't. So you have to look at offensive production, to me, as a whole. You know, like what does your scoring offense look like? What does the size up front look like?
Right.
How is your running game? If your running game is top notch, your offensive line, for the most part, is probably really good.
Pretty good.
And with that being said, I went 5A.
I like it.
I went Montgomery Lake Creek.
Love it. Love it.
It is no question, and we talked about this with Trevor, this offense is explosive. This is one of the top scoring offenses in the entire state. And I got to give it credit. A lot is due to this big offensive line. And they've got a fit. I'm not going to take any credit away from their backfield. They've got a great running back in Tyvon Byers, great quarterback in Cade Tessier. But this offensive line, when you look at it as a whole, they just gel really well together. Now, that offensive line is led by offensive guard Aiden Kaplan, I believe, who stands at 6'3", weighing 270 pounds. And, guys, he's only a junior. So that dude is going to grow. He's coming back. He's only going to get bigger and better. Jackson Sayers also has played an integral part in this Lake Creek offensive line this season. But I just couldn't see another unit that I thought stood out more to me than Lake Creek's
No, that's a
offensive line.
fantastic pick because, like I said, we talked to Pat Kennedy on High School Scoreboard Live last weekend, and we asked him, because we were asking about Cade, his quarterback, you know, how exceptional. I think Tepper asked the question. He's like, you know, we know he's a special player, but what makes him special and all that stuff. And Pat Kennedy, I think he might have been a former offensive lineman. I think he was like, Cade will be the first to tell you it's his big guys up front,
sure.
you know. So that's something really cool. Really good pick there.
Yeah.
That's a little bit like, I don't want to say under the radar because they're well known, but I think that's a really good pick.
Well, and to me, it's like when you're doing this and you're looking at the whole the Houston region as a whole, your first instinct is to go, North Shore.
North Shore,
We're going big
exactly.
6A Division I, you know. But you got to look at the 5A
5A,
schools a little
yep.
bit because there's some talent and some size there.
Yeah, I
that's
thought
kinda
I was
hidden
going a little bit under the radar with Spring Westfield.
I went
You got
even more
me.
under the
Yeah, I
radar.
was going to say you got me. You out hipstered me.
All right, let's move on to our last category here with the 10th.
11th.
11. Well, that makes sense. 12.
Was there 12?
11. I'm not mathing.
The math don't be mathing right now.
Do not be mathing right now. With the 11th pick in the WTF Houston, whatever it's called, Houston
Dream Team Draft.
Team
Chung
Draft.
Chung.
I am picking the, no surprise here, Atascocita defense.
I like it.
Quick little stat for you. They've allowed just under 100 points all season with a total of 3 shutouts. In one of those games, if you remember back in the regular season, they took on North Shore and they held him to just 16 points. Now, they ended up losing that game, but holding an explosive team like North Shore. Now, I know they were without Caleb Bailey, but like we talked about a couple of minutes ago, this North Shore team is still explosive. They're still really good under Coach John Kay, even without Caleb Bailey at the quarterback spot.
Mm-hmm.
This Atascocita defense attacked at the rim and completely held this offense to 16 points as a whole. And I think that, to me, that's super, super impressive. 3 shutouts in a 6A division. I mean, that's very impressive to me.
It is. Their nose guard, Samu. I actually have it written down here. Samu Taumenu Pepe, I think is how you say it, is outstanding. We did on This Week in Recruiting, we talked about him a little bit, and
I've heard,
unbelievable.
Tepper loves him too.
Yeah. Taumenu Pepe.
Yeah.
Pepe, I think.
Yeah.
Pepe.
Just
Taumunu
as a whole.
Pepe.
And I think too, I like this Atascocita defense too, because all the way up front, when you talk about their defensive line, to when you're talking about their safeties, it's just an all-around solid unit together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with Atascocita with my defensive pick.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, for the 12th and final pick, we're not going to call it Mr. Irrelevant because, there's only 6 categories. But for the 12th and final pick of the inaugural WTF H10 Dream Team Draft, Chung Chung. For my defense, I am going all the way down to 5A Division 2 and will select the Fort Bend Marshall Buffaloes. The Buffaloes of Fort Bend Marshall have only allowed 76 points. Have only allowed 76 points. That's an average of 6 points per game. You know what?
That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, because they've pitched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They've pitched 7 shutouts out of their 12 games so far.
Jeez.
Insane.
That's
wild. Absolutely insane. Zachary Chapman is 6'6", 270 defensive lineman. Just massive. Listen to this defensive line. Zach Chapman, 6'6", 270. Trent Thomas, 6'6", 245. Corian Reynolds, who's a junior, 6'1", 260 at defensive tackle. Logan Gainesville, a senior defensive end, 6'3", 230. To have, at 5A Division 2, to have a defensive end that's 6'3", 230, who's quick and agile and aggressive. We talk so much about Fort Bend Marshall having this explosive offense. We're always talking about who's running the ball and do they have a quarterback? Do they have wide receivers that they can get it to? Explosive. They put up points. 76 points out of 12 games. That's just exceptional stuff. I think that you pair that with an actual battle-tested team. Like I said, incredibly excited to see that game against Montgomery Lake Creek.
That offensive line and that
one.
defensive line going head-to-head is going to be fantastic.
That is where if you're watching that game on Dave Campbell's Texan Live, TexanLive.com, there is your marquee matchup. The Montgomery Lake Creek offensive line against the Fort Bend Marshall defensive line. It should be a banger.
Yep.
So there it is. I'll read through my picks. You can read through yours. In the inaugural WTF H-Town Dream Team Draft, I took Coach Gary Joseph, quarterback Caleb Bailey, running back Seth Davis, wide receiver Ryan Niblett, offensive line of Spring Westfield, and the Fort Bend Marshall defense.
And I picked, for Mallory Hartley team, Coach John Kay at Galena Park North Shore. I talk too much. Quarterback DJ Lagway of Willis High School. Running back Kedrick Riscano of New Caney. Wide receiver Jaquez Petaway of Langham Creek. Offensive line Montgomery Lake Creek. And to round it all out, I chose the Atascocita defense.
So there you go. Pretty good. We're going to make a graphic that kind of lists this out. Y'all, maybe we'll put up a poll or something on Twitter. Y'all can go vote as to whose team you like the best. But, that was fun.